When do you anticipate finishing your case?
Monday is Geraldine and Nicholas. On my end, it's going to take, maybe, like I said, 3 hours-ish to go through all of it, maybe a little more. I imagine, who's crossing, you or Jen? Sharon? How long are you going to be crossing, you think?
Depends, but
Worst case scenario, everything comes in.
more than an hour, I would think.
Like an hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
No more than that.
All right.
So you got Geraldine and
1,
Nicholas,
2,
you got them 4
3,
hours.
4, 5, 8.
All right, and then, so you got them 4 hours, are your other witnesses long or short?
Short. The tool marks guy.
Firearms.
He won't be long for me. He'll be probably an hour and change for me.
All right,
Probably no more than an hour.
Maybe a couple hours on him. DNA. Stuart, how long?
An hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour.
how long for the defense?
45 minutes.
Okay, so let's say 2 hours for them. All right, how long?
Amy.
The
So that's
medical
3
examiner, hour.
More than that.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Is that on Monday? Not,
I doubt it.
not Monday, okay.
I doubt on Monday.
Yeah, maybe 90 minutes.
Defense?
30 minutes.
Okay, so 2 hours for the medical exam.
Then the GSR person.
How long GSR?
Maybe 40 minutes.
Probably the same for me. Hour at the most.
All right, so probably 1.5
Oh,
hours.
and there are other witnesses that we don't know. We're considering, we haven't decided yet, Your Honor.
6, 7. So you're definitely going to be done then probably going into Tuesday and done by probably the end of Tuesday.
Depending on how.
So we're going into Wednesday then for possible, because the defense, my understanding, had a witness, whether if they put on their
We have
case or
several
not.
witnesses.
Pardon?
We have several witnesses.
How many witnesses does this defense have?
3 to 5.
I'm just
About
asking.
5.
Okay, I'm just, so you'll probably take more all of Wednesday.
Oh, no.
I'm asking because we need to tell the jury, because we originally told them one date. So I want them knowing before they leave here today that they'll be going longer than the original date we told them in voir dire. All right? Okay, all right. Can you radio Marcy? You may be seated. All right, you may proceed, Mr. Stone.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy, let me start a little bit over and start asking you this. On January 24th of 2019, was the surveillance system at your location working properly?
Yes, it was.
Any issues, problems at all?
Not that I recall, no.
And was it maintained correctly in storing the data and information?
Yes.
Let me show you what's been marked as state's 10Y for identification. May I approach you? Let me ask you to look at that. And do you know what that DVD is, or that disc?
Yes, it's the footage of Chad
Okay,
on the day
and
of.
have you just looked at that?
Yes, I have.
And what is depicted on that CD or on that disc?
You see Chad entering the building that morning, from him going through the turnstiles, walking down the hall, coming to the 3rd floor, and walking to his desk. And then the very end of it, you see him walking out the building, walking to his car. When he gets to his car, he goes to the passenger side, puts his bag in the car, comes back around, gets in his car. He sits there for a while. Then eventually he drives off. You see him pulling off.
And the various locations that are depicted on that video, obviously you're familiar with all those locations?
Yes.
And is that the video that you retrieved when the sheriff's office came and spoke with you and asked you to retrieve video for the day of January 24th, 2019?
Yes, it is.
Prior offer that into evidence as a state's exhibit.
Any objection?
None.
All right, what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit, what was it pre-marked as? 14, pardon?
It's 10-1.
10Y will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 226. 7. Thank you.
May I play for the jury?
You may.
And what I'm going to do, Ms. Kennedy, is I'm going to play it, but then at various parts we're going to stop it. Like, for instance, if we can stop it right now. What is this showing?
Entrance building, through the west side.
Okay. And is this entering the building in the morning?
Yes, by the lobby, we're in the security desk.
And when we talked about that document, the time, the badge records before, would he have to scan to go through those front double doors?
Yes, he has to scan to come inside the building, and then as you see there in the video, he's scanning the turnstile to walk through.
Okay. And where is this location now?
This is the hallway behind the security desk where he's walking. And then you get to the door, there's a little, can't really see it, but there's a scan where he'll scan his badge to enter into that doorway.
And this is still in the morning on his way to work?
Yes, he's at work inside the building going to his desk.
And now where is this location?
On the 3rd floor in the building, side of the building.
And this is in the area where he works?
He's walking towards the area. This is
Okay.
the stairway that's closest to his area.
And this particular area right here?
To his desk. He's pretty much walking to his walking to his desk, still 3rd floor. It just comes out the stairway, he's walking around the corner.
And obviously that's his workstation
That's
there?
his workstation. That's where he's at.
Now, you can see them in the reflection now coming in?
Yes, he's leaving.
And what is this? What are we looking at now?
This is the north side of the building. He's exiting the north double doors.
And this is at the end of the day?
At the end of his shift, yes.
And that was Chad leaving?
That was Chad,
And now what are we viewing?
You see Chad walking across the parking lot, still on the north side of the building. And he's parked in the very corner. I see him. I don't recognize this.
Is that him on the top of the screen there?
Right here, yeah.
Okay.
You see him walking to his car right here. Puts his bag in. And then you see him walk back around. Inside.
And he sits in the car for a couple
He sits in,
minutes?
for a few minutes, and then eventually he pulls off. You see he's pulling
Backing
out,
out.
backing out. You see him drive off.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Defense?
No questions, Judge.
Members of the jury, do you have any questions? Write it down. All right. Ma'am, some of our jurors have questions of you.
Okay.
Are employees allowed to have their personal phones at work, or is there a restriction on personal cell use while in the building?
They can have their phones at work, but their phone has to be put away because of the type of information that they are dealing with, as far as patient's name, address, social security number, credit card information. So if their phones are in there, they have to keep it inside their desk. They cannot be out.
to your knowledge, are employees allowed to have firearms on the premises, including their vehicles?
No, they're not allowed, no.
All right. And the last question was regarding the video. And rather than ask the witness, that's something then the court will just allow to the view of the video at this time to answer the question. And the question for the record was whether or not Chad had a gun and gun holster clipped to his belt in the video.
No. He had a bottle underneath.
I'm not asking you to
Oh,
answer,
I'm
just
sorry.
playing the video again. All right, any questions based on those questions for the state?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions based on those questions for the defense?
Just briefly, Judge. You said no firearms were allowed on the premises. Do you mean in the building?
Inside the building, they shouldn't have it on them at all, whether inside or outside, or in their cars or anything.
So they're prohibited from having a firearm in their vehicle?
That's the law. But if they do, but that's not, we don't go that far in depth to searching cars or anything like that.
Okay. My question is for company policy, not the law.
No,
So
it's not allowed for company policy, no.
for the parking lot?
No.
Okay. No further questions.
Members of the jury, any more questions? All right, may this witness be excused and released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, ma'am. You're excused and you're released from your subpoena. Next witness.
Paul Schatz.
Sir, if you could come forward, raise your hand and be ready to be sworn.
You solemnly swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the complete truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Have a seat in the witness stand. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Schatz. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Please tell us your name.
Paul, Schatz.
And would you please spell your first name and last name?
Paul, P-A-U-L, Schatz, S-C-H-A-T-Z.
And Mr. Schatz, what is your occupation?
Currently the manager of violation enforcement and special tolling projects for the Central Florida Expressway Authority.
And how long have you worked with the Central Florida Expressway Authority?
A little over 12 years.
And tell the jury what your position encompasses the duties.
Oversee non-payment on the roads, deal with customer service, phone representatives, toll enforcement officers, image review clerks.
And if you can give the explanation to the jury, what is the Central Florida Expressway Authority?
So we're a government agency brought about to construct, maintain, and operate a system of toll roads throughout the Central Florida region.
And in your position, do you have access to and control over Central Florida Expressway Authority's business records, including e-pass records?
Yes.
I'm showing a defense counsel 11A for identification, 11B for identification, 11C for identification. And may I approach the witness, Your Honor? Let me show you what's been marked as 11A for identification, 11B for identification, 11C for identification. Can you please look at those documents? You recognize that?
Yes.
And please tell the jury, what are those documents?
They are e-pass transponder transactions.
And for particular individuals?
Yes, yes.
And please tell the jury, for whom are they?
All right, 11A is for Chad Amato, 11B for Cody Amato, and 11C is for Mr. Grant Amato.
Now, were these records made or generated at or near the time of the events that are in fact reflected in the records?
Yes,
Were they made in the course of regularly conducted business at the Central Florida Expressway Authority?
yes,
Is it the regular practice of the authority to generate these type of records?
yes.
Your Honor, offer these into evidence as state's exhibits.
No objection, Judge.
All right, it's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 11A will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 228. In evidence, what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 11B will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 229, and what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 11C will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 230.
Oh, sure, sorry.
Let me put up State's Exhibit 228 on the overhead, and that's for Chad Amato. And I just want to ask you some questions about that. And what I'm really focusing on is the data or the entries that are for January 24th.
Sure.
Chronologically, is the data that represent events chronologically from the bottom going on up?
Yes.
So starting with the column, and actually, well, do you see the column, the first entry going from bottom up? For January 24th, 2019, the entry that has 6:20:28 a.m.?
Yes.
Can you go across that column going horizontally and explain to the jury what each column means?
Sure. The transaction date time, self-explanatory, when the vehicle went through the tolling facility. Posted is when it actually hit the e-pass account. Location was the Dean Main Toll Plaza, lane 6. AVI.
Now, let me ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Lane 6, which direction would that be going in? Lane 6?
Westbound.
Towards downtown Orlando?
Correct.
Okay. Continue. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine. Type AVI was a valid transaction read. Amount, the electronic rate, toll type E rather than V for violation. Balance is the current running balance of the e-pass account. Transponder is what the transponder ID that was in the vehicle, and tracking numbers is something we have internally.
Okay. Now, the next column going up, and you know, what I would really focus on now is really the date and time, the plaza, and the direction
Sure.
of the vehicle. So the next entry going up is 6:27:18 in the morning.
Yep, and that's actually at Curry Ford, Maine. That's on State Road 417, so heading southbound.
And is that going towards downtown Orlando?
It's actually towards the airport,
Okay.
almost. But you can, eventually it goes. So this is going south. It'll eventually go west if you kept going on 417.
Okay. Then the next entry above that, that shows 6:38 a.m. 02.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, I should have read that earlier. So the vehicle traveled southbound on State Road 417 and then continued, it got onto State Road 528 and went westbound. And that's actually Sun Pass's facility, not ours.
Okay. Now let me have you jump up to the first entry for January 24th in the afternoon. And the column that has 4:45:24 p.m.
Oh, I'm sorry. Again, that's Sun Passes. I'm guessing that's the opposite direction. Because it's opposite lane 2 to lane 3. I'm guessing it's going the opposite way, so heading eastbound on State Road 528.
Which column are we talking about now?
Well, the one on January 24th at 4:45:24 p.m.
Okay. And
So
that was posted on January 25th?
correct, because it's a Sun Pass system, so we share files at usually overnight. So they went through at 4:45. However, it hit the ePass account on the posted side. So that's when they sent us that transaction.
Okay. And now let me take you up to the entry for January 24th. That's 4:55:09 p.m.
That's actually not a transaction.
What is that?
It's just a Beltway discount. It's something that we do specifically for ePass customers, the amount of usage.
Okay. The next entry on January 24th, 4:57:22 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that?
That is, so that's at January 24th, 4:57:22. Went through Curry Ford, Maine, so that's State Road 417 northbound.
And that's what my question
Lane
is.
11, yes.
Lane 11 indicates northbound?
Yep.
And then the very top entry, January 24th at 5:02:22 p.m.
That's continuing on State Road 408 heading eastbound.
And that's the Dean Road Toll Plaza?
Correct.
And eastbound would be away from downtown Orlando?
Correct.
Let me show you states 229. And let me ask you the same questions I did for Chad Amato. These are Cody Amato's e-pass records?
Correct.
And once again, going from bottom to top, that's the events that are listed chronologically from bottom to top?
Sure. So we start out on January 24th, 2019, 5:59:32 a.m. Looks like heading westbound, going through Dean Main, lane 7.
And once again, that's in the direction of downtown Orlando?
Yes.
And then at 6:04:32 a.m.?
Continuing on State Road 408 westbound, went through Conway, Maine, lane 10, which is westbound heading towards downtown at 6:04:32 a.m.
Okay. And now, the very next entry is in the evening, correct?
Yep.
And tell us about the entry that is for January 24th, 9:31:45 p.m.
That is heading away from downtown, heading eastbound on State Road 408, going through Conway, Maine, lane 12.
Once again, away from downtown Orlando?
Yes.
And then the very top entry?
continuing away from downtown on January 24th, 2019 at 9:36:21 p.m. Went through Dean Main, Lane 11, Toll Plaza.
And once again, eastbound going away from downtown Orlando?
Yes.
And let me ask you, the 408, is that also commonly known as the East-West Expressway?
Yes.
Now let me show you what's been introduced as State's Exhibit 230, transaction records for Grant Amato. On for January 25th, 2019. Once again, from bottom to up, that's chronologically the events? From the bottom column going up towards the top?
Sure. So we're starting out heading westbound, January 25th, 2019 at 7:33:25 a.m. Going through the Dean Main, Mainline Toll Plaza, Lane 7.
And that's westbound?
Correct.
And then explain the entry for, this is all for January 25th. Explain the entry at 10:51:23 a.m.
I'm sorry, which one? The next one up?
Next to the bottom, the 10:51:23 a.m.
So that's at 10:51:23 a.m. They went through Dean Main, Lane 10, heading eastbound on State Road 408.
So the bottom entry is going westbound, and the top...
Yes, so almost came off at a non-tolling point between the 3-hour period.
And headed back east? Lane
yes.
10, is that going eastbound?
Correct, yes.
And then now the entry for 12:39:28 p.m.
Sure. On January 25th, 2019, 12:39:28 p.m., vehicle headed through Dean Main Toll Plaza, Lane 7, heading westbound on State Road 408.
Tell us about the column 12:44:41 p.m.
Sure, that's shortly after the previous transaction, continuing westbound on State Road 408 towards downtown at 12:44:41 p.m. Transaction occurred at Conway Mainline Plaza, Lane 7.
Now, what about the entry right above that? That's 1:37:12 p.m.
That is getting on at Cimarron eastbound, State Road 408, heading eastbound at 1:37:12 p.m.
And I'm sorry, what direction was that?
Eastbound.
It's going away from downtown Orlando?
Yes.
And now, the entry for 1:41:17 p.m.
That's continuing on State Road 408, heading eastbound. Went through the Dean Mainline Toll Plaza, Lane 11 at 1:41:17 p.m. on January 25th, 2019.
And once again, that's going away from downtown Orlando?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Showing you, it's been marked as,
Sorry.
Defendant's Exhibit, State's Exhibit 228. It looks like, right here, what you're saying, that's just a notation for he gets a special discount?
Correct.
Okay. Down here, we have 12/19/2018, and then the next entry is 1/21/2019. So that would indicate there's been no activity on the account for almost a month,
Correct.
or actually a little bit over a month. No activity, correct?
Right.
Great. Thank you very much, sir.
And you're redirect.
No.
Any questions, members of the jury, of this witness? Write it down. Cimarron Boulevard runs north and south. In what part of Orlando does it go eastbound?
Well, the actual ramp goes eastbound. Cimarron, north and south, it's an eastbound ramp. So it's running parallel to the 408. It's just called that because it's off of Cimarron.
Do you have any other questions, Mr. Stone?
I do not.
Do you have any other questions, Mr. Dowdy?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Any other questions, member of the jury? All right, may this witness be excused and released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, sir. You're excused and you're released from your subpoena. You're free to go. State may call their next witness.
Daniel Anderson.
Come forward, sir. You're still under oath as you weren't released from your subpoena. Have a seat. All right, you may proceed.
Investigator Anderson, may I approach Your Honor, please? Let me show you what's already been introduced into evidence of State 222, and just ask you if you recognize, and look at the front and back. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And I'm going to put up on the overhead. During your interview, and we understand it was a very long interview, a lot of information. During your interview, did the defendant, Grant Amato, did you ask him about that letter?
I don't believe on the first day, the 26th, I don't believe we had this letter in our possession at that point. There was a subsequent interview, I believe, at his hotel where this note had come up.
Okay, and what did you ask him about this letter when it was discovered?
I asked him to explain it to me.
And what was his response?
Basically, he told me that he had a meeting with his brother and he had memorialized their conversation in this letter.
In other words, did he tell you that he wrote that letter?
He did.
And did you ask him why it was written in the first person? In other words, as it was written as if Cody had written it.
Yes, sir, I did.
And what was his response?
His explanation was he was writing this letter to memorialize the conversation he had with his brother, which drew my concern.
But he admitted to you that he wrote that letter.
He said he wrote that letter, yes, sir.
And I'm also showing you the back, including the back of it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I have no further questions.
No further questions, Judge.
Any questions for members of the jury? No questions? All right, may this witness be excused and released, or still just excused?
Subject to possible recall, yes.
All right, again, sir, you're excused, but otherwise you're free to go about your business and you're still subject to recall. All right. Members of the jury, at this time, we're going to break for the day. The next witness would take us past the 5 o'clock hour, so we are going to break. We've been going for a long week as well, so I'm sure you all can use a break, and I know the attorneys have been working hard and they can use it as well. I do, based upon the circumstances, we're going to be going into Wednesday, so I wanted to let you all know, so that way you can be prepared for it. We can, and I'll have some more discussions with the parties after you guys leave to make sure as far as if we're going to even go further than that, but we're definitely going to be going into Wednesday. All right, so I wanted you all to be prepared, and if you could make whatever arrangements just in case. And otherwise, again, remember, do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't look up anything over the internet or otherwise. You guys got a weekend away from the court. Don't avoid the news. Don't look on the news. And if there's any type of news brief coming up regarding the case, change the channel. And remember, just tell everybody that you're before Judge Rex Seidler in courtroom 5D on a jury, and that's it. Otherwise, have a wonderful weekend. Morning too, so please be here at 8:15. Thank you.